Hey guys, all right, here's a tutorial on the coffee cup. So this is in the Part Design Using Part Studios tutorial. This is the coffee cup exercise. So there's a number of steps to this. So let's get right to it. So the first thing they want us to do is to start a new design, create a new document, and make sure the workspace units are set to millimeters. So I'm going to create a new document. Close this out. I'm going to create a new document called coffee cup. And I should already have my units set up, but I'll just double check that. Workspace units are set to millimeter. My default mass units are set to kilograms. I'm going to leave that for right now. I may need to change that later. That's okay. And then I want to set up a sketch on the front plane. So I'll set the sketch plane to the front and turn off all the other planes and then look at that front plane. So I'll look at the front plane. I'll set up a new sketch on the front plane. I want the front plane. And then I'll hit P on my keyboard to turn off all the other orthogonal planes. And we're ready for the next step. So I'm going to create a construction line from the origin here, straight up, and then I'm going to draw this shape through there. So I'm going to draw on top of that construction line to close that off. And then I want to make sure that those lines and arcs are tangent there. So go ahead and draw that. So I'll start with my construction line. So I'll turn on construction, draw a line from the origin, go straight up. And I don't think I have that horizontal, so let me try that again. Line, construction, here, there. I want to make sure I have the vertical. That little vertical line there tells me that I have it straight up and down. Zoom in on this a little bit. And then I'll turn the construction off, start a new line. I'm going to come over here, start a new line, start from here, over here, up here, and then I'm going to draw an arc. I'm going to make sure that I have a tangent arc. Actually, I'm just going to make an arc, 3-point arc. So, about there, and I'll make that about like that. I'll come back and fix that later. And then we'll come up here, here, and then back down here. Now, let's see if I was close there. I have an extra line segment in there, so I want to go ahead and take that off. So I want to get rid of this. I want to take this and make it coincident. Concentric, coincident. I want these two to be coincident. And I can fix that later, and then I'll go ahead and make these tangent. So I have tangent from here to here. So I'm going to get this tangent, and then if I want to pull that line up, I can do that. So I can pull that line up to make that look a little bit more like what I have there. So I think that looks pretty close. I've got my tangent constraints there, and the rest of these are just orthogonal or just a regular corner there. So we'll go on to the next one. Go ahead and put our dimensions in here. Notice we're specifying a diameter dimension here. So when we place this diameter, we're going to go from the center line to here, and then we have to pull this out. So we have 125, 175. So let's put those in. So some dimensions. So between here, here. Oops. Let's try that again. I want to go from here to here. Try that one more time. Dimension from here to here. There we go. And I can pull that out. And you see, once I get past that center line, it gives me a diameter. I'm going to set that to 75. I want this to be 100. And make sure I got all that right. 125, sorry. It should be 125. That makes it better. Let's pull this up here. And we want this one to be, and notice that my center line kind of got, or my construction line kind of got lost in there. So I'm going to pull this down just a little bit. I'll set that back to 50. And I can see my construction line coming out there. I want to make sure that I can grab that. So I'm just going to grab that. Pull it straight up. There we go. And then I can set this back to 100. There we go. And I want to make sure that I can pick this line so that I can get this dimension in here correctly. So I'm going to dimension from this point to the construction line. Let's try that one more time. I want to dimension from this point to the construction line. And I'm going to pull that out there, and I believe that should be 75. And so 75, 100, 125. I've got a radius of 90 and a distance of 40. So let's do this. Notice that when I just click on that line, it's coming out at that angle. So I want to make sure instead of clicking on the line that I'm clicking on the endpoints. The dimension tool is on the endpoint, and then I can pull that out. And so that was supposed to be 40. And then this radius here was supposed to be 90. Okay, so that actually looks pretty good. I'm going to pull some of these dimensions down to just kind of make it look a little neater, easier to read. Pull this one back in between there. Make this one a little closer. So there, I think I'm in pretty good shape right there. So let's just double check those. Okay, that looks pretty good. On to the next step. So I'm going to use the offset sketch tool to make that 6 millimeters. So I'm going to offset this and this, so the bottom side and this right hand side here, not the top. All right, so let's go ahead and offset that. So here's my offset tool. Offset this, and I'm going to go this direction. I want to make that 6. Make that 6. This here, make that 6. And that didn't work very well. Let's try that again. Offset. This one, this direction, and I want it to be 6. There we go. Okay, so I need to clean these up a little bit. So mine didn't just like clean up automatically. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that here. So I want these to be coincident, this one and this one. And then I want this to be coincident with this edge. And so it'll just extend it out to that edge. So now you see I've got the 6 millimeter gap all the way around there. And I want to double check this one just to make sure that this is coincident here. So coincident this with this line here, and I think we're good. Okay, so let's go on to the next step. Okay, so I want to make sure that sketch is fully defined. I'll call that the main sketch and then accept that. And so all the lines are black, so I see that I'm fully constrained. I'm not over constrained here. And so I'll call this main sketch. Accept that. Okay, so that's going to be the main body of our cup. And so we'll go on and go ahead and create that. So we're going to just revolve that solid around there. Notice that as we do that, we're actually going to be creating this whole shape here. It won't be actually cut out. We're going to do that later. So go ahead and revolve that. We're going to make a new solid from the 2 faces of the main sketch there, and go ahead and put that all the way around. So I'm going to switch back to an isometric view, and we'll go ahead and make a new revolve. Go, and I want this and this. And it's going to be a new solid. My revolve axis is my construction. Click that. And then I can see it show up there. And it went all the way around. And so I think we're good there. And we're just going to leave that as revolve 1 and go ahead and accept that. Okay, so there we have main body there. So now we'll go back in there and we'll rename this part. And so we're going to call this the coffee cup. So we'll go down here to our parts and we'll rename that. Right click on this and rename and call it coffee cup. Okay, so on to the next step. We're going to create a new sketch on the front plane, and then we're going to rotate normal to that front plane. So normal just means 90 degrees to it. So we'll create that sketch plane, and then we're going to look at it kind of on its edge. So over here, I'll create a new sketch plane on the front, and then I'm going to choose N to be normal to that plane. Okay, so I'm viewing right at that plane. Okay, we'll get there. Go ahead and sketch the handle here. So this is going to be the pathway of the handle. So the midpoint of the construction line is coincident to the center point of the arc. Right. So I'm going to start by drawing that construction line, and then I can draw the arc and the line coming off of that. So here, start a line, construction, and over here. And I think I want that construction line to be, let's try that one more time. Line construction from here to here. We'll call that good. Oops. That dimension off of there. And then we'll put an arc on there. So I want a 3-point arc. And so I'll start my arc here. And the end of it's going to be there. And then for the center point, I want the center point to be on that midpoint. And so I'm just going to place that for now. And then I'm going to come up here and make it coincident. So I want this to be on this. Oops, I want to use midpoint. Midpoint. So I want the center of this to be on this midpoint. Okay, so the center of that circle is on that midpoint. And then I just need to draw another line from the end here down to here somewhere. I'm going to go past that a little ways. And I don't need that dimension down there, so I'm just going to undo that. Okay, and I want those to be tangent, so I just want to go ahead and add that tangent. So tangent from these two objects to be tangent. Okay, so I may have to pull these in a little bit, and that's okay. I can do that now if I want to. I can just grab this here. Oops, turn off that. I can just grab this midpoint here and just pull that in, and it will make that a little more like what we're looking at. You see that I can drag that around and I can change the dimensions of it, but it doesn't really matter at this point because when we add those dimensional constraints, it should sort all that stuff out. Okay, so we'll move on to the next step. So we want a radius of 20. We want the end point of the arc to be on that inside part, and we want the end point of this line to be on that inside one there too. And then we've got an overall distance from here to the bottom of 25 and an overall distance from here to the bottom of 25 and a radius of 20 on that arc. So let's put that radius on there. So that's going to be 20. And I want to show that main sketch here just so I can kind of see that geometry. And I want this to be coincident. So I want coincident here to be on here. And I want coincident, I want this to be on here. And then I want this vertical dimension from here to here to be 25. And then I want the dimension from this to the bottom to be 85. So the dimension from here to be 85. Okay, so I think we're good there. We've got that on there. We've got this tangent. We've got the center of the circle and the midpoint of that. So I think we're all set to go. So we'll go back to here. So our sketch should be fully defined at this point. You see all the lines are black, and so we should be good to go. And we're going to call this the path. And go ahead and accept that. So we'll rename this to the path, and we'll accept that. Okay, so now we're going to create the actual, we're going to create a reference plane using the curve point option. Okay, so this is where it gets a little tricky. We're going to set up a plane, but it's not going to be just one of our regular planes. We actually want a plane to be kind of on this line right here. All right, so we're going to create that reference plane, and so we'll come over here, and we want a new plane. Where is it? Wait a second, how am I doing this? Create a new plane, a new reference plane using the curve point option. Okay. So where am I missing this? I'm going to create a new plane. Okay, so what am I missing here? You guys probably see this. Create a new reference plane. So it's that little icon, which is over here. Okay, so let's try this again. So we want a new plane. Here we go. We want a new plane, and we want this to be a curve point option. So we want curve point option. And we're going to pick that line and that endpoint. Okay. So let's switch to our isometric view here. So we're going to pick this curve and that line and that endpoint. So we have them both there. Okay, and so this will create a new work plane for us. So we're just going to call that plane 1, and we're going to accept that. Okay, next step. And then we're going to view normal. So create a new sketch on the reference plane, and then sketch an ellipse. Okay, so we're going to create a new plane, a new sketch on the reference point. So here's our reference plane. Okay, so it goes through this point, and it's normal to this. And we're going to create an ellipse on there. So we'll start that ellipse on the endpoint down here. And so 10 and 14. So we want that to be the center of that to be on that. So I think we are. And so the dimensions we want on this are 14 and, so we'll go ahead and dimension this. It's going to be 14. And then this dimension is going to be 10. So just click on that and drag it to the right there. That's going to be 10. So it is an ellipse, although the way that we're looking at it is actually at an angle. So it looks like a circle. If I hit N to go normal, so I'm just looking at the plane now. Now I can see that. Okay, so switch back to my isometric view. Okay, and I have a coincident constraint already on there. So I can see that coincident constraint. If I don't have that, I want to make sure I put that that coincident. I want the center of the arc to be right on the end of that line. Okay, next step. And so we'll rename this sketch profile and accept it. Okay, so this is going to be the shape that we're going to sweep along that pathway to create the handle of that coffee cup. All right. So next step, we're going to do a sweep. And so we're going to sweep that along there. Okay, so let's look at the front plane again here. And so it's kind of hard to see here, but I'm going to stay with the isometric view. And so I'm going to create a sweep feature. This is going to be an add. I'm going to add it to the coffee cup. Okay, so this will all become part of the coffee cup. So we're going to do a new sweep. And then, so the things to sweep, I can pick it off the screen here, or I can choose it. So I want the profile. Okay. And then my pathway is going to be the pathway here that we chose. And I want to make sure and add that. I don't merge it with the coffee cup. And you can see that that's extruded and added in there. I go to the front view, I can see that in there as well. Okay, so as this is extruded in, you see what it's merged here, and we're adding to that. So we've got that pathway is extending down here, and if we were to extend that that out, you'd see that this the lips here would extrude into the center part of the cup. And so the same thing on the top here. As this extrudes out into it, it's going to extrude into the center part of the cup. So the next part we're going to do is we're going to go through and take out the inside of that cup, and that will also trim up those edges and make a nice clean surface on the inside. So let's see here. So we're just going to accept all that. That'll be our sweep pattern, and then we'll go on to the next step. Okay, so here's the next step. We're going to create this inside surface of it, and then we're going to remove that from it. So, so we're going to make sure that the main sketch is showing, which it is, and we're going to go ahead and create that sweep, or sorry, that revolve. And we're going to, so this is the thing I'm going to revolve here. Let's make sure I want the edge of the main sketch. I want the edge of the main sketch. So I want this right here is what I want. And I don't want that face of the revolve. I want that. Okay. And I want the revolve path is going to be here. Or the revolve axis is going to be here. And I want to make sure that I'm removing that. And it looks like it didn't quite do it. So I'm going to come back in here, take this off, and I'm going to reselect here. Just want this. So turn off that coffee cup, and I just want to select this. That's what I want to revolve. So turn that back on. And it's going to be removed from that. Okay, so let's turn that back on and make sure that that is what it in fact it did. So it looks like it did. So selecting that was a little tricky. It was trying to select a couple of different things. So what I did is I just turned off the coffee cup, the main solid there, so it kind of helped me in selecting that. Okay, so I've got it set to remove right here. I've got just that inside part of the main sketch. And it's a full revolve, and I'm going to merge it with the coffee cup. All right, so I think we're good there. We'll go ahead and accept that. And then I'm going to switch back to my isometric view. Okay, so I think we're set there. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're just going to kind of clean up some of these edges. So the last thing you want on a coffee cup, you don't want sharp edges that can chip easily or that you could cut yourself on as you go to drink. So we're going to create some rounds on the bottom of it. And so we're going to look at the front here, and we're going to round off down here. So this is now, we're not in a sketch, so we have part or feature editing tools up here. And so I want to put a round on that. Use a fillet. one there. And this direction looks good. And I want to do a 12 millimeter radius. So we'll set this to 12. And you can see that round off there. Now, you see it doesn't matter like if I chose over here or if I chose over here, because that's a circular surface there. So it's going all the way around it. So it doesn't matter where I choose it, it'll round off that whole edge over there. Okay, so I think we're good there. We'll go ahead and accept that fillet. And we're going to do the same thing on the top up here. Now, if you keep in mind, when we offset this, we created a 6 millimeter offset on that. So it's roughly 6 millimeters across there. We're going to put a 2 millimeter radius on this. So we're going to put a 2 millimeter radius on the outside and a 2 millimeter radius on the inside. That means it'll be a little flat here on the top. So it won't be a perfectly round top. But you could change that. You could easily change that to make that whatever radius you want. Now there's a limit to it because you can't make the radius so large that it would get rid of the whole edge there. So you'd have a limit of a little over 3 on that radius. And so about 3 is all you could do. But they're going to go with a 2 millimeter radius on that. So we'll go ahead and do that. And what happened there? Something closed off. So let's undo. Do this radius here. I want to fillet that. I'm not sure why it closed all that in. Oh, you see it's putting it around here. I just want to do the edge of the revolve and not the face of the revolve. There we go. That's better. And I want that to be 12. Okay. So that looks better. I had accidentally selected the face of that, and so it was actually trying to put a fillet around the handle as well, which made it kind of awkward looking. So, okay, so let's go ahead and accept that. And then we'll go back to an isometric view. And we'll go ahead and put the fillets along the top here. So we're going to fillet this edge right here. And we're going to make that 2. And then we'll fill this edge over here. We'll also make that 2. And you notice it, there's a little flat edge right here. Now I could increase those. I could make them 3. And you see that rounds that off pretty nicely. I could make it 5. You see when I make it 5, those radius tend to cancel out each other and I get some conflicts up here. So I'll set those back to 2. And I can see I'll have that little flat edge right on there. Okay, and so I think we're good there. And we'll go ahead and accept that radius. And then we're going to make that material porcelain. So we'll go ahead and right click on this, assign a material, and we'll just call that porcelain. I'll just start typing and it shows up there and I'll select porcelain. And then now I should be all set to come down here and check my material properties. And so that's our last step. There's our material properties. So they have the mass as kilograms here. So when I'm looking at my my workspace units, so I had that set to kilograms. So that was a lucky guess on my part. That could just as easily be grams. So usually we don't talk about the weight of a coffee cup in terms of how many kilograms it weighs. When you look at those mass properties in terms of kilograms, it should be fairly small. So here, choose my mass properties. And so in terms of kilograms, so it's less than half a kilogram. So it's 573 grams. So, okay, so I hope that helps. Please let me know if you have any questions. And if you're having trouble with your sketches or you're having trouble with like your drawings are just not coming together, feel free and share those drawings with me. And then I can take a look at those drawings and see if we can figure out what the problem is. All right, thanks so much.